Soundscape plays a big role because we're building this world that is a science fiction world. There are things that you feel are familiar in the genre.
My name is Ken Lample, and I am one of the composers of 2067.
Ken studied under John Williams, who many people would consider to be the greatest composer of all time, and Star Wars was a big influence, obviously, on my life as well as the entire rest of the world. He brings this incredible breadth of just classical knowledge in the way that he constructs scores.
I first heard about it, myself and the other composer, Kirsten, we had done a film with Lisa, the producer, which went very, very, very well. And I was having dinner with Lisa, and she said, "Oh, my husband Seth is doing a film that I'd like to get you guys together to see, if there's any, chemistry, see what you think." So we've been working on the project for about a year, and then from that initial meeting, we started doing demos. And he also sent us some music that he likes. He made a playlist that was, from the new Blade Runner, the Hans Zimmer's Blade Runner, to Arrival. He liked that score a lot. Some of Max Richter's stuff.
He really wanted to score as much of the movie as we could early in the process. And actually I was driving from here to Adelaide to film with Lisa for 16 hours, and he had sent me this playlist of like, "Dude, here's this 90-minute playlist of all of these themes that I've created," and we hadn't turned over a single frame of the movie yet. And it moved me so much hearing this story that I had kind of pitched him and that was in the script, and it felt like in some ways it was the first pass of the movie coming to life. We used that to then use, I played it for the actors on set, and it really helped them to get into the mood and the theme of the film, and having that process fold back into the creation of things is just something that you don't get to do all the time.
There were a few of the initial demos that we made that Seth loved, and he played it on set, he played it for the actors, a really powerful relationship between Ethan and Jude, as sort of Jude as the older father figure, Ethan's relationship, the transformation of the character over time, that there was a lot of a drama that we needed to score to that too. So it was coming up with the balance of, we wanted the tone of the film still to be very dystopian, but be able to underscore those moments as well. There's a moment of the film when Ethan gets transported into the future. All of a sudden he wakes up. We've left the city of no oxygen left for humanity to suddenly waking up with air and things like that. So Kirsten had this great idea that to have vocal and choral music be the be the theme, but more than the theme, be the context by which the score moved in this new area. It's a unique project because Seth is across a lot more things than a lot of directors are. He's a practitioner, he's a director, he knows cinematography, he knows how VFX goes, and generally as a director he has his hands in a lot more things than a lot of directors do. Like, he's actually doing VFX shots. And so it's about, adapting our creative process to the way that he works. On this particular project, I think it was better to sort of let us run with it a little bit.
Something that I spoke to Ken about early on, and also Nigel, our sound designer, is just where that crossover between music and sound design could happen. Sometimes in films I find that the sound can clash with the music, or you're telling the story on the level of the music, you're also telling the story on the level with the performances and the visual effects and the sound design, and sometimes they can be a bit separate. And so what we've really tried to do is have that soundscape be this one flowing kind of story that really is connected to the drama of the film. Ken has been really incredible at that, scoring the level of the drama, scoring the themes, scoring the subtext of the film, having those undercurrents come through into the music.
The particularly nice thing about this project is it's very rare that you get a chance for your score to be right out front of the film. It's 110 minutes of continuous score. There's only a few sections where there's 5 seconds pause, but it's continuous music throughout the score. There's a number of things that I think are really unique and very interesting about the score to this that we don't see anymore. One of the things about the textural scores is they provide a lot of mood and ambience, but it's not scored tightly to what you're seeing. One of the things that I think is especially brilliant about John Williams as a composer, John Williams, Bernard Herrmann, and that older generation of composers, is how the scores are cut like a glove to everything that happens. Every glance, every small thing, the scores are cut very, very tightly. And so one of the things that as we started scoring the film, as it started to get a little bit more emotional and maybe more of that romantic element, we started to find that rather than just letting the dystopian mood happen, that when we started to cut really tightly to the moods and the looks of the characters, then all of a sudden the music took on this other sort of world. So it's really interesting because we don't see that a lot these days in modern film score. So it's really sort of an older generation film scoring technique, but still using a lot of the sound design elements that we recognize it as a modern film score. So a lot of it was an opportunity, I think, to sort of reinvigorate a lot of the older techniques of film scoring, which really are not appropriate to a lot of modern films these days. So to me, this particular film has a more overarching chronology. That's a timeless story. You know what I mean? There's aspects of it that it's certainly modern, certainly projecting into the future, but also there's, in terms of the character development, there's a timelessness that it has. That's sort of and that timelessness of it and all of those chronological aspects of the present day, the future, the past, and things sort of allowed us to open up a doorway to some earlier techniques of film scoring that we could sort of pull, you know what I mean? Sort of pull into a modern palette that oftentimes these days we can't do. This particular one was of real interest because it allowed us to actually create a 110-minute symphony. But for certainly myself as a composer, I wrote 30, 40 orchestra pieces before I ever film scored. So for me to then come to a project like this and be able to write one long, you know what I mean? Write a piece that you can, it's actually like a giant symphony that unfolds more like a symphony than really any other film scores do. It's not just about, oh, we hear the theme again, but the way that the theme embeds itself over the course of time, that you're hearing it differently every time, and the context that it comes back in the end is just like, at the end, because it starts off with this, I don't know, should I play it on the piano? Yeah. So the film, it starts off with this low. You've got all kinds of sound design moving, and the theme is. There's all these shots of the earth. That's this opening theme, but it keeps coming back in other parts of the film where you sort of lightly just hear sort of like, and then it eventually at the end of the film it comes back, you hear the theme, but at the end of the film it becomes. You've got that, but at the same time it's going, you have another version that's going. And then you have another version that's going. So you've got this whole web of, this is something that goes back to the fugues of Bach. It's augmentations and diminutions, which is all these different kinds of transformations. So the epic moment at the end of the film, it comes back on the theme on every possible subdivision of rhythm. It's completely epic. The opening is the prologue, just sets the tone before we see characters, that the music should be a prologue and foreshadowing everything that we're going to see. So there's no orchestra, it's sort of synths and brewing dystopian sound design as we're hearing with a shot of the planet. We're hearing about global warming and the destruction of rainforests. So we've got that low drone. But there was something, because it opens up on a synth, the synth playing. But it's not any synth, it's the Blade Runner synth patch. Yes. So for those of you, but that was also really important for us with Seth, that it's not just any synth pad, but there's something, and one of our great loves is being able to sort of give the nod, because that's the thing also about great films, sort of there's places that they nod to the tradition. Then there's also music for Xanthi, the leaving of Xanthi. which is Seth was interested in something very intimate for this. For this particular one, it's all just it's single solo. It's not big orchestra, but it's cello, one on a part, divided cello, like solo cello. So this is Ethan leaving Xanthi. And there's all sort of sound designy stuff that happens. So the very hardest, this was the very hardest part. The hardest, if you were to say what was the hardest part of composing music to this, was the Jude theme, because of the nature of the relationship over time. So you need a theme that lends itself to transformation over time. Every theme doesn't lend itself to that sort of thing. We came up with 20 Jude themes, and that some felt too melodramatic, some felt too dark, but then the one that we settled on was something very. So the first time we see Jude, we get it in the brass. We get it in the just because there's something hopeful about it. Yeah. There's something hopeful about it. There's something very, very hopeful about it. That later on, when we hear it in the film, we get which was originally, and now it's dark. It's nice because you can. The nice thing is you can it's a recognizable theme, but then it lends itself to all the sort of the darker variations.
Ken is one of the most positive, creative people that I have ever met in my entire life. Kirsten has been an incredible part of our process. She's such an amazing collaborator for Ken. For me, it's like you're getting two incredible composers. Having their dynamic, they come from, I think, quite different worlds, and you can see those two influences colliding and strengthening each other in the work that they do together.
Originally, Seth wanted to end the movie with a song. So the original first screening is, I don't remember what the song's name is, but there was a song there. And we were like, no, this is our moment, man, no, it's a great, gotta leave the light on, it's a beautiful song. And he was like, no, I'm really sold on the song. I'm like, no, you've got to give us a chance. I said, dude, you have to give us at least a chance. So he said, all right, I'm gonna give you a chance, come up with something. And if it's better than the song, if it's not as good as the song, we're not gonna use it. If it's better than the song, we're gonna put it in. So we came up with this huge orchestra end theme.